Grinch.
Greetings, friends, horror fans, lovers of the occult, and welcome back to Grinch After Midnight, where we delve deep into the kind of stuff your parents wouldn't let you watch as a child. We talk about the kind of things that people would rather not talk about. We tell the stories people don't want to hear, but freaks like us. Speaking of people like us, people don't like us. We're different. But people like us like people like us. Number 10. Hell. There was no pearly gate. The only reason I knew I was in a cave was because I had just passed the entrance. The rock wall rose behind me with no ceiling in sight. I knew this was it. This was what religion talked about, what man feared. I had just entered the gate to hell. I felt the presence of the cave, as if it were a living, breathing creature. The stench of rotting flesh overwhelmed me. Then there was the voice. It came from inside and all around. "Welcome. Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my composure. "You know," the thing answered. I did know. "You are the devil," I shuddered, quickly losing my composure. "Why me? I've lived as good a life as I could." The silence took over the space as my words died out. It seemed an hour went by before the response came. "What did you expect?" The voice was penetrating, yet patient. "I don't know. I never believed any of this," I uttered. "Is that why I'm here?" Silence. I continued. "They say the greatest trick you ever pulled was convincing the world you don't exist." "No. The greatest trick I ever pulled was convincing the world that there's an alternative." "There's no God?" I shivered. The cave trembled with the words. "I am God." Number 9. The accident. It was 1 a.m., and Guy Henderson sat in his dark living room. He hadn't moved for over an hour. The accident earlier that evening kept playing over and over in his mind. The light turned red, but he was in a hurry and accelerated. An orange blur came from the right, and in a split second there was a violent jolt. Then the bicyclist rolled across the hood and fell out of sight onto the pavement. Horns blared angrily as he panicked, stepping on the gas and screeching away from the chaos and into the darkness. Shaken and keeping an eye on his rear view the entire time. "Why did you run, you idiot?" He never committed a crime before this and punished himself by imagining years in jail, his career gone, his family gone, his future gone. "Why not just go to the police right now? You can afford a lawyer." Then someone tapped on the front door, and his world suddenly crumbled away beneath him. This was it. They found me. There was nothing he could do but answer it. Running would only make matters worse. His body trembling, he got up, went to the door, and opened it. A police officer stood under the porch light. "Mr. Henderson?" asks the officer. He let out a defeated sigh. "Yes, let me—" "I'm terribly sorry," he interrupted, "but I'm afraid I have some bad news. Your son's bike was struck by a hit-and-run driver this evening. He died at the scene. I'm very sorry for your loss." Number 8. Next time you'll know better. Have you ever walked into a room and found a vampire? No, not the sexy kind, but a foul creature with bony limbs and ashen skin. The kind that snarls as you enter, like a beast about to pounce. The kind that roots you to the spot with its sunken, hypnotic eyes, rendering you unable to flee as you watch the hideous thing uncoil from the shadows. Has your heart startled? Has it started racing, though your legs refuse to? Have you ever felt time slow as the creature crosses the room in the darkness of a blink? Have you shuddered with fear when it places one clawed hand upon your head and another under your chin so it can tilt you, exposing your neck? Have you squirmed as its rough, dry tongue slides down your cheek, over your jaw, to your throat, in a slithering search that's seeking your artery? Have you felt its hot breath release in a hiss against your skin when it probes your pulse, the flow that leads to your brain? Has its tongue rested there, throbbing slightly as if savoring the moment? Have you then experienced a sinking, sucking blackness as you discover that not all vampires feed on blood? Some feed on memories. Well, have you? Perhaps not. But let me rephrase the question. Have you ever walked into a room only to suddenly realize you forget why you entered it? Number 7. Hands. The doctor pulled the stethoscope ear tips out and hung the device around his neck. Mr. Weatherby, all of your tests have come back negative, and my examination shows nothing abnormal. Adam knew what was coming next. I'm not crazy, doctor. I'm sorry, but there's no physical reason for why you occasionally lose control of your hands. A psychologist can help. I don't need therapy. I need answers. They seem to have a life all their own. I can't hold a job. I'm under investigation for assault. I almost killed my neighbor. This can't go on. I'll try anything at this point. After 2 weeks on a new medication, Adam saw no progress and grew increasingly depressed. He was convinced that despite what the doctors said, it was not a psychological problem. That night, a frustrated and angry Adam sat in a chair drinking bourbon. Drunk and hopeless, he stumbled into the garage and started the table saw, then slowly lowered his wrists towards the screaming blade. Detective Armstrong entered the garage where several uniformed officers stood over the blood-soaked body. So what have we got? He asked, taking in the blood-spattered scene. This is a weird one, Detective. How so? Take a look at the body. Apparently, he chopped off his hands with the table saw and bled out to death. Armstrong knelt down. And, sir, we can't find his hands anywhere. Number 6. He stood against my window. I don't know why I looked up, but when I did, I saw him there. He stood against my window. His forehead rested against the glass, and his eyes were still and light as he smiled a lipstick-red, cartoonish grin. And he just stood there, in the window. My wife was upstairs sleeping. My son was in his crib, and I couldn't move. I froze and watched him looking past me through the glass. Please, God, no. His smile never moved, but he put a hand up and slid it down the glass, watching me. With matted hair and yellow skin and face, through the window he watched. I couldn't do anything. I just stayed there, frozen, feet still in the bushes I was pruning, looking into my house. He stood against my window. Number 5. Fallers. People started falling from the sky by the close of the decade. They were never clothed, always naked, always a petrifying grin on their faces. It had been just a few at first, but then hundreds, then thousands would fall at a time, destroying cars, homes, blocking off highways. Strange discoveries were made upon research. They were human, but lacked any blood, intestines, lacking even a heart. No one could explain the hideous grins they had, or even where they came from. It was a woman in Costa Rica who made the latest and most disturbing discovery. She recognized one of the fallen bodies as a long-dead relative, one who died back when she had been a teenager. Then more and more identifications were made. Soon people were picking out their long-dead loved ones amongst the video feeds, piles of cadavers, and crematoriums. No one could explain why they were coming back, falling from the sky. Even more distressing, after disposing of the bodies, it wouldn't be long until the same body came plummeting from the sky once again. You could not get rid of them, no matter what. People were getting killed by the higher number of falling bodies, and soon after their burial, they too began to fall. My mother was killed when a body landed on her car, crushing her. The next week, the news reported on a body that had gotten lodged in an airplane windshield. I looked on in horror as I saw my mother's grinning face, the happiest I had ever seen her. They say when there's no room left in hell, the dead shall roam the earth. Well, what about heaven? Number 4. The happiest day of my life. I watched as my soon-to-be father-in-law held his daughter's hand as he walked down the aisle. Tears streamed down his face as the wedding march that played in the background reminded him that, in a few minutes, he would be watching me hold his daughter's hand and slipping on her ring. He walked up to the altar, and I took hold of her hand, grinning from ear to ear. It was the happiest day of my life. My bride's father got down on his knees and started begging, "Please, I did what you asked. Just please give my daughter back." I glared at him. "Shut up and stop ruining the moment. If you sit back down and enjoy the ceremony, maybe, just maybe, I'll tell you where I've hidden the rest of her body." Number 3. Hidden. No relation. "Where are you?" I scream. Panicked, I run through the abandoned farm. I can't find her. Not in the old house, not in the barn. I run into an empty field, heart racing. As I scan the area, I run into a mound of dirt and trip, sprawling onto the ground. Getting up, it hits me. Abandoned farm. I tripped over freshly tilled earth. Crouching down, I start frantically clawing with my hands, scooping handfuls of dirt. I hit something hard. Wood. "Are you in there?" I cry. Pressing my ear against the wood, I hear muffled cries. I start digging again, but realize it's taken far too long. Looking around, I see a garden shed. I sprint to it. Ripping the door open, I see a shovel still caked in dirt. Probably the same one that bastard buried her with. I grab it. Running back, I started digging with purpose. Soon, the wooden box is exposed. I toss the shovel and rip open the crate. She stares back at me, eyes wide, bound, gagged, but alive. I sigh with relief, thank God. I reach into my bag, pulling out my rag and chloroform. I crouch down, placing it over her face. She struggles, faints. I toss her over my shoulder. Ah, hell, my brother says as I walk back to the truck with a smirk. You found her. Yep, you almost had me, though. I laugh. All right, my turn. Where did you put her? I gesture to the creek area. Somewhere over there. Drowning's an issue, though. You jerk, he says, running off. I smile, watching him go. I just love adult hide and seek. Don't you? Number 2. My favorite support group. Look, I'll be the first to admit I'm a complete bastard. I'm also lazy. I'm only here to find the idiot, because there's almost always an idiot. The support group is pretty typical. We connect online, decide on a quiet place, and now we're all sitting cross-legged in a circle. Real kumbaya crap. Jerome takes the lead, pouring everyone a cup of tea as he starts talking. I'm Jerome. You can drink your tea, but only after explaining why you're here. I'll start. Jerome tells us he's never been loved. I can see why. The guy's ugly as fuck. He sips his tea while the mousy chick speaks next. Miyu, she says. My parents. Short and sweet, no blubbering. Gotta admire Miyu. She's probably not the idiot. Next to talk are a legless veteran, a broke businessman, a needle-tracked junkie, and a diseased old crone. Then it's my turn. I'm an ass. Everyone hates me. I take a loud, annoying slurp of my tea as the fat kid with a black eye goes next, telling his boring fat kid sob story. Afterwards, we're all sitting quietly when Jerome keels over. Then Miyu's eyes roll back and she slumps forward. One by one they fall. Only the fat kid reacts. What's happening? He whines. I thought this was a suicide support group. Found the idiot. It is, I say, spitting out my mouthful of tea. They support it. No one wants to die alone, kid. Oh, how ghost white he turns, looking into his empty cup. Won't be long now. These suicide meetings are a sadist's dream, and I never even have to lift a finger. I told you I'm a lazy bastard. Number 1. Emily. Little Emily vanished last year. Now they're pouring new sidewalks in my neighborhood, and I found her name in the wet cement, written in remembrance. But it was written in reverse, and from the bottom. Short but sweet, that last one. Thank you all for watching and joining me in the darkness. This has been Grinch After Midnight. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. As we build this community, I want you to be a part of it. And I want to give a shout out to a couple of the subscribers and similar channels that are part of my other channel's community. If you're not familiar with the other channel, it's Grinch with a Y, much like this, just Grinch 1984, and my name after it. If you want to know what my name is, go find it. It's just a parodies channel. This is the darker, more sinister channel. So this is where we give the shout outs to the freaks like me. I want to give personal thanks to Past Life Explorer for their support, Through the Veil Paranormal for their support, and Faces of Fear for his support as well. He just subscribed today, Monday. That's when I'm filming this. but you won't see it till Friday. After midnight, that is. So I'm going to link their channels to, I'm going to link to their channels in the description, so give them a check out. Check out my other channel, the parody channel, if funny parodies is your thing. Some are sick and twisted too, so parodies for all different kinds. Thank you all for watching. Have a creepy, wonderful evening. See you in your nightmares, and next Friday after midnight.